All right, welcome back to another episode of the Change Officer podcast here at STEP Conference. And in this episode with me, Kevin, who is Managing Director of C3, Companies Creating Change. So a lot of similarities, and I'm really excited about our chat, man.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time. You will be attending a couple of different panels, I believe, and
Correct.
It's a busy day, so I'm not going to take a lot of your time.
No problem.
But let's just go straight into it and talk more. First, talk more about C3. I would really love to bring closer C3 to our audience, explain them what C3 is all about,
Sure.
and how C3 is different to many other program managers out there.
Yes, completely. Yeah, look, C3 supports impact-driven startups in the MENA region, Middle East and Africa, to be able to really give them a platform to be able to showcase their impact startup, but we give them a very good platform to be able to layer on our business fundamentals wrapped around their impact that they are trying to create in the world. A lot of these startups are focusing on environmental or societal related challenges that are in line with the UN SDG framework. So they really need support to be able to be longer term sustainable and cannot rely on just charitable donations and grants. They need to be profit making. So we give them the skills to be able to become investor ready if they do get the chance to be able to then, after the program, interact with our wide network of investors. We give them that journey and that platform to be able to do so. So that's where we are slightly different from a commercial accelerator program. We recognize the journey that they're on. They're extremely resilient. They want to learn, and they really want to be able to develop the amazing startups that they have.
Yeah. So social impact startups in the sea of growing fintechs, health techs, and cryptechs, and in all of the other startups out there, and we've had a chance to talk with a lot of different VCs. VCs also have high on their agenda investing in startups that are like impact driven.
Yep.
But sometimes that's a bit of a challenge because there isn't that many out there who are truly impact driven, and the ones who are impact driven very often are not as sexy as some of the major ones out there who are rapidly growing. How did you decide to focus on that space and the whole C3 crew?
Yeah.
And how do you look for these kind of startups, and what's worth also? I gave you too many questions now, but what's worth unpacking is like, how do you define what is a social impact startup?
Sure, yeah. Look, I mean, there is a historical stigma around social impact related enterprises and investors in relation to they have to trade off either profit against doing good. So therefore it's always like, okay, these guys are focused more on charity, therefore they're not VC material. But what we're seeing is a change. A lot of VCs, especially in this region, are wanting to have that dual impact of also returns that they see are achievable in terms of returning back to their funds, but also doing good in the community, right? So there's a lot of startups that are focusing on health tech apps that are connecting doctors with patients through a technology function. That fintechs might not necessarily on the first glance be impactful, but they're actually focusing on financial inclusion and helping the unbanked, where there is a huge gap across the MENA region. There really is a change, and we ran a research project last year to give an indication within our network of investors that they do see 80% of them that actually it's a market rate return adjusted for these types of startups. So it's not really below market they're looking for. They're looking for a return, but they're seeing a lot more come through. But we still need a lot more to drive the awareness across the region. A few exits would be great in terms of giving that, similar to what Cream did back in the day, in terms of just giving the headline push for the impact side.
Yeah, that's I think it's important. It's really important to have more companies like C3 putting attention to this space and truly helping early stage. And you are like even before early. you're almost like at the very beginning.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
Helping them grow. How does the whole program look like? And obviously we had a chance to talk about different accelerators programs and different platforms that are supporting startups. And there's always this like as you're going from step to step, the challenge of jumping to another stage.
Yeah.
And very often a lot of startups fall through the cracks because
Absolutely.
they can't just bridge, from idea, getting some seed investment, and then, jumping into an actually running business. Like, how did you approach this whole like life cycle
Sure.
to offer them value throughout the whole?
Yeah. Look, I mean, ultimately, we know across the region there is a huge gap in terms of early stage funding, and a lot of the VCs here specifically are focusing on Series A and above. It's a little bit less risky. There's a lot of high net worth individuals here and angel investors, but they are harder to find in terms of helping the startups grow in this arena, and the educational part as well is just not understanding enough about what these guys are doing in the impact space. So what we do at an early stage is we give them some insights into 5 key pillars, impact being obviously a key fundamental to what we offer in the program. We give them ideas on business, strategy, governance, and talent. Talent's obviously a very key one in terms of focusing on the right team at the very beginning to go through the phases, and so you don't come unstuck at the very end by hiring someone that wasn't aligned with your mission. So what we have seen is that really the engagement in the program is amazing. These guys, they want to collaborate with each other. They want to have separate talks. They're not worried about sharing IP. They want the whole ecosystem to actually improve with them. So being a commercial guy and working many years in corporate is very amazing to see that.
Refreshing.
In terms of just wanting to help each other, and that's really demonstrated in terms of the program, the startups that have been through our program over the last 4 years, the 130 companies, 97% of them are still operational, which demonstrates resilience, an ability to never give up, and actually continuing along their next future stage. Vis-a-vis, the normal traditional environment where 1 in 10 startups are successful. So that gives you a little bit of insight into when they're in the program. I mean, they really take on board, and we've had entrepreneurs from very early in their life, and also in 50s and 60s that have been already through amazing corporate journeys. But I think what the big key takeaway for me is that they're forever learning, and they're really wanting to take on more, and it's never something like an ego related stuff. They're very, very calm and easy in relation to this, but they have that central passion to succeed.
Is there background as well? Do you have some also who drop their corporate roles to start a business?
Completely. We had a lot of heads of multinational corporates in the region that have decided to move into the startup space, and when they come on board, we think, we can't teach these guys much more than they already know. But to be honest, they were thankful after the program, saying, you've opened us to some blind spots that we thought we would never cover by just the training that you've provided. So it's just been refreshing, and they are our advocates. I mean, they're here today at Step in terms of just we don't rely on a huge amount of marketing, and we're a startup ourselves, but it's really key for us that they have become a part of our family for the longer term.
That's amazing. And it's interesting, your background, you spent a lot of years in corporate role before, and then you switched to something that is more of a entrepreneurial role. And there's always that, corporates are always dreaming about, one day maybe if I could be an entrepreneur, and I'm sick and tired of all of this. And then all these entrepreneurs who are just like going crazy every day, and they're like, if I could only have that 9 to 5. What was your experience, and what parts of the corporate and the role do you miss? What parts of this kind of more entrepreneurial do you like? And where do you think both sides can benefit from each other? In that sense.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, personally, I don't think I miss anything about the corporate world. Many years of navigating political situations that end up wasting a huge amount of time, not focusing in the right areas. I was just at a point where getting into this impact space wasn't necessarily the first thought in my mind, but since I've been in it, it's been infectious, and I've really recognize the opportunity that this can be in terms of delivering back some of the things that I've learned in a business context, to be able to give the skills to people that really need it to facilitate their onward journey. But there is, I would say, a role for both corporates and startups to come together. There is, again, a huge public-private sector related effort to try to grow the ecosystem. At the moment, sort of government does do a huge amount of initiatives, but then the programs sort of disappear and the entrepreneurs don't know where to go. But I think if the private sector, in terms of corporate-related venture capital, could help follow or facilitate their journey to the next stage, that's where we really need, I think, the corporates to come to the forefront.
Yeah, which is not an easy thing to do, but let's see. Change. So it's happening at a record-breaking pace. Like this is in the previous session, I spoke to Mirna from FinTech Galaxy, and we tackled this topic of change. And like I feel like I'm relatively young, and I should be like on top of everything that's going on. I literally feel like I said dinosaur.
I'm
like
with you.
I like. And plus I'm coming from software development background, so I should be aware of technology and stuff. And I really had a feeling that I'm on top of it a couple of years back.
Yeah.
Today,
Yeah.
literally, I feel like I don't know anything. Like what do you feel about this whole thing that is happening? Like over the previous, this is previous 2 years, let's say.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I've always been a big fan of change, right? We need change to stimulate new minds, new ideas, innovation. It's something that I think it's great to have all these disruptive technologies coming into various different parts of the sectors that have needed it for a long, long time. The way that things are moving in terms of technology are amazing. I mean, for me, I had no background in terms of crypto, blockchain, all these types of new facilitation of technology, which I've started to read up a lot more about because I feel that's the way that the world is moving towards, and it's again wrapped around Web3 and how we can generate.
What's your take on
into
Web3 and Metaverse and this?
I think there's an element that's still required. I think we're still in early stages. Obviously, there's a lot more that needs to be done and developed in that, but I'm a big fan of the thesis of decentralization, right? I think we've gone through an element where it was required to build, various different platforms from a centralized perspective, but I'm now a big believer that I think we need to give back the elements of the control that's been built by the major tech companies to be able to then give back to the people in terms of this decentralized approach. So for me, I'm not an expert, as I mentioned, at all in this, but I'm getting more and more excited about what could potentially come as a change in the future.
No, yeah, it's interesting. When you're surrounded with similar-minded people, and I believe everyone who listens to the Change Officer is like in this whole space, you feel like, Metaverse is now almost like new normal thing. Like everyone is talking about it, you're getting your awareness, and you're under the impression that the general public is on top of it. But actually, you're just surrounded by similar-minded people.
Yes.
You are, blessed to be living in a city that is exploding, and all of the other major hubs around the world. Living in New York doesn't give you the right perspective. You're
true.
just you're 1% or less than 1% of people in the world. And then maybe this whole fear of that you're missing something out is just driven by, the hype that is happening around you. But actually 99.9% people are not even aware of like
That's
what
very true.
NFT, crypto, and metaverse are, like, and blockchain, all that stuff. So let's see, relax. Always good.
But it is an educational part that's required from the whole ecosystem that's wrapped around it, right? To push it up to another level, similar to Impact, right? It's also similar in relation to we ran a couple of programs in Africa that were investor readiness type programs, predominantly for commercial related startups. But we always use an impact element to then unlock their thought about impact. And by the end, they're also now positioning themselves in how we can, change the world by also having this phenomenal technology that we've got. So I believe there is a huge amount that's required in education to get people to a level where they are comfortable with using these types of platforms, because there is the added issues around security and access that still needs to be defined a bit, because it is quite worrying, some of these things that are developing.
And education as an industry is really interesting to explore, because it does deserve, similar like financial services, a tremendous transformation in the way how it is delivered, because it's significantly underperforming over the previous years, and especially given what's going on today.
Very true.
If you enter any school now, you probably won't hear a lot about current trends.
True.
So I think that's an interesting space. And do you have like startups who are coming from education sector and trying
Yep.
to disrupt
Yeah,
it?
there is absolutely. There's a lot of education required around, I guess, pockets of less fortunate startups, or looking at in terms of addressing those major challenges. So things like autism, bipolar. There's a lot of these startups that are coming through our programs that are addressing fundamental issues that require a lot of thought around how they do their education. And there's some amazing technology out there. There is this, again, as we go back to the very beginning, in terms of a bit of a misconception around impact-driven startups, that are not the most innovative, they don't have the best technology, but there is some amazing stuff coming out. And especially even in relation to, just education, I think there's a next level that's coming now in terms of the way people consume information, because you only have to open your smartphone at any point in time, and you're inundated with so much information at one point. And keeping the attention span is something that we work hard on during our programs, to be able to give the participants the most opportunity to learn in an environment they're comfortable with. We've been in a pandemic era where Zoom has become a natural platform, which is amazing for training to a certain extent, but you need to not present, you need to engage more. So therefore, using breakout rooms in these types of activity, and peer-to-peer learning, we've seen also is working fantastically well. So people no longer want to be able to be, standing there listening to someone preach about something. They want to be involved, and they want to learn on the job.
Yeah. What do you think we've been accelerating in our performance also kind of rapidly? We are still working 5 days a week from 9 to 5, and our output has exponentially grew over the previous 100 years, right? Even what happened last year or 2020 with this whole Zoom transition.
Yeah.
And you see what Zoom did here? We're not talking about conference calls. We're saying Zoom transition.
Exactly.
You
right.
see, that's
yeah.
good play. But what do you think about this whole concept now? 9 to 5, 5 days a week. Do you feel burnt out as well? I mean, you used to have, we said, you used to travel to Abu Dhabi for one meeting. Now you do 8 meetings in a day. What's your take on
look,
that?
I mean, I've got, I would say, mixed views on both platforms, in terms of, I think there still needs to be a physical element for certain meetings where it's really important to meet and understand the personalities and people that you're talking to. But if you're traveling around the city, it can be extremely inefficient, and you feel yourself that maybe having a Zoom call would have been an easier option at the very beginning to start discussions, and then maybe speaking at a later date in person. So I still think there's a hybrid event, and you can probably just manage that. But I'm a big believer in terms of giving flexibility to people and to staff, to be able to use their own decision making, to be able to be as efficient as possible. So I think the flexibility is a big key, and giving them just a platform to be able to express themselves in a way. So generally people want to work when they're excited or want to be part of the mission, right? So for us, it's quite easy at C3, because people come to us, they really, get behind what we're trying to do, and that for me is so much easier than in other teams that I've led. So I believe that's based for me on the ability to have this hybrid working model, and not be micromanaged in an office, in a grey office somewhere. So I think there is elements, and I believe that the hybrid model is here to stay. Yeah.
C3 in 10 years.
Yeah, look, I think there's a massive opportunity in this space. We want to expand into other territories
You're
globally.
currently based out of Dubai only?
Yeah, but we're running programs in across MENA and Africa. Last year, we want to go as far as possible in terms of creating impact for everyone, not just through our programs. We also want to be able to get closer links with funding opportunities for startups that have been through our programs, the most successful ones, to give them that chance again to further their long-term sustainability. We also are looking at how we can create an open innovation platform to also give impact entrepreneurs some information that are not part of our programs. So unfortunately, we have thousands of applicants to become part of our program that we only can onboard, say 40 or 20. So what happens to the others? We really want to be able to make sure that they have even just a basic level of understanding, or maybe give them some tools to be able to think about how they can come back to the program next time and apply. So for us, that's also the other element, is how do we go out to the masses as well to continue the impact journey. Yeah.
Well, I hope that at least this tiny episode is going to help a bit.
Yeah, look, I mean, thank you very much. It's been an amazing opportunity to share our views in terms of what we're trying to do at C3, and we welcome collaboration across the board. I'm a big believer, again, in stronger is better, and together. I think it's a huge opportunity for, as I mentioned, everyone in this community to be able to get behind the movement and try to tackle some of those major challenges from an environmental and societal perspective.
Absolutely. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to do that?
Yeah, sure. Look, I mean, any point in time, available on LinkedIn, and the C3 team. There's a few dotted around at Step here, and we're always very open to have any discussions along the lines of impact, to be able to make the world a better place.
Amazing. Kevin, thanks so much for coming, man.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Guys, thanks for staying. I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Stay tuned. There is another amazing guest coming on really soon. And we'll see you in the next episode of the Change Officer podcast. Take care, everyone.